the one drive that we had where we kind of had some momentum when we scored after the strip stack. The plays we run a lot of gap schemes, and we were gashing. We got shot out on that drive, and we had a lot of momentum. And honestly, we didn't see those plays at all for the rest of the game. Those plays weren't called anymore. I asked for those plays to be called, and they weren't. And it hurts. It hurts a lot just because of how we lost. I feel like we just weren't putting the right opportunity to win this game.
On Ohio State's touchdown drive in the second quarter, Ezekiel Elliott carried the ball 8 times for 27 yards. 6 of his 8 carries resulted in a run of 3 or more yards. For the rest of the game, Elliott had a total of 4 carries, and not one resulted in a gain of more than 2 yards.
I know I'm going to get a bunch of questions about Zeke. Zeke has always been an extremely loyal person, a great competitor. He had an infection in his leg early in the week, and just a very emotional week. Obviously, his last time, he's a very well thought of junior, and he gets a microphone stuck in his face, and obviously we do not condone that and encourage it. Our rules always talk about your teammates and move on. Zeke is a very honest guy. Frustration, anger, all that probably mounted up a lot. Like I couldn't disagree with him, with his comments, that he should have got the ball a little bit more. But that's not the place to do it. He knows that. But I've seen it. I don't know, unless this is your first rodeo. Have you ever seen an emotional athlete ever go, or coach? I mean, that's, for those of you that ever played or coached, that happens. That's why I always like to decompress for at least a few minutes, because I've seen some things that I'm not very proud of.
We welcome in Tim May, who covers the Buckeyes for the Columbus Dispatch. And Tim, when you heard those comments just now from Urban Meyer that he wasn't disagreeing with what Ezekiel Elliott said, what was your reaction?
Well, you almost said the same thing in the postgame on Saturday, that in essence, their play selection just didn't hit the nail on the head on Saturday. And the thing about it is, you got to understand too. I mean, he had said the week before that push comes to shove, man. Sometimes just hammering Ezekiel Elliott in between the tackles is exactly the medicine that their offense needs. It's what they needed the week before against Illinois when they got things going, and they really went away from that except for one drive on Saturday. I think 6 or 7 of Ezekiel Elliott's 12 carries came on one little drive to the first touchdown. So, but his point was, he didn't disagree with him, but that wasn't the place to say it, which was to us media types. So he said he's in no jeopardy of not playing or missing this game or not starting this week, that they squashed that on Sunday and moved on. So we'll see as this goes along. Ezekiel Elliott, issued a statement here a little while ago where he, in essence, apologized for saying what he said, but didn't apologize for didn't take back what he said. And you would think that would be when things are getting tough, when things aren't working, you'd lean on the one productive part of the offense. And I think he was voicing his frustration on that. And like I was tweeted during the game and afterwards, he didn't say anything that everybody else wasn't thinking, including Urban Meyer, as it turns out. So that's what I take from it more than anything else.
Who bears responsibility ultimately for the play calling?
Well, Urban Meyer's involved in it along with Ed Warner and Tim Beck, who's sitting up in the press box. It's a consortium all the time, and they have play sheets they go to, and they go to different packages to try to feature different things. I mean, getting a real firm hold on how the process works from asking questions is very difficult to do sometimes. But bottom line is, it's Tim Beck pretty much is calling the plays, but he's not just calling them of his own free will. There's a lot of discussion that goes into it.
All right, Tim May from the Columbus Dispatch with the latest on the Buckeyes. Again, a lot of drama in Columbus following Ohio State's first loss of the season, first loss dating back to last year against Virginia Tech. Luke, let's go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the season. At the start of the year, we were looking for things, and we were really nitpicking. Where could this season derail for Ohio State? It was hard to find things.
Sure.
What did we eventually come up with?
That Ohio State was going to be their own most difficult opponent, and they were going to have to avoid getting out of their own way or get out of their own way to be able to focus on the bigger picture. And that, to me, is what crumbled here. because it became about an individual performance with one player on a very talented football team that had everything laid out in front of him. Okay, so I agree with what everybody's saying. He wasn't wrong in what he was saying, all right? Urban Meyer recognizes that. But you know whose job that is to address that? It's Urban Meyer's job. It's not a player's job. It's not, I don't care what Ezekiel Elliott says, does, so on and so forth. You can't do what he did there. And I agree with Urban Meyer in the sense that you get an emotional player, didn't have a chance to decompress. He's young. Yeah, you're going to look back 5-10 years from now and he's going to say, gosh, I really wish I hadn't done that. However, with that being said, when you have a guy like that who makes those statements and then wants to follow it up, one of the things we didn't hear there was, well, there's no way I'm returning here next year. Well, if you're Urban Meyer, there's an opportunity for you to bring that young man in and say, listen, think very hard about what I'm going to ask you here, because the answer is going to determine whether you are here on Monday or not here on Monday. So whether that discussion had taken place, the one thing Urban Meyer's got to make sure he does as the leader of this program is ensure that the inmates are not running the program.
Urban Meyer has been an incredibly successful coach, but the one area where you can ping him on, he hasn't always exactly been the best disciplinarian. And
well, it depends, I think, on who it is.
Yeah.
And it does for most coaches. That shouldn't be exclusive to him.
I will give you that.
Right.
But with Ezekiel Elliott, one thing that was interesting that Tim May said, there would be no punishment for what he said and for how he said it. That is going to get a reaction on social media. In fact, Fran Fraschilla, our own esteemed head coach, who's one of our top college basketball analysts, tweeted out, if Urban Meyer plays Ezekiel Elliott next Saturday, I just wasted $30 on his new book, Above the Line. Need to do the right thing. How should Urban Meyer handle Ezekiel Elliott going forward?
I don't disagree with that. You know, my assessment of this prior to hearing Urban Meyer's press conference, that's the first time I've listened to that and hearing him address it. And I agree with a lot of what he's saying. But I also think it's an opportunity for Urban Meyer to send a message to his football team that it doesn't matter who you are. You do that to the coaching staff that's working tirelessly to put you in the position to win. The coaching staff failed the football team, not Ezekiel Elliott. They failed the football team. Now, Ezekiel Elliott's a big part of that. But it's an opportunity for Urban Meyer to either sit him, or as I referenced, when you make a statement that you're definitely not coming back, well, you know what? There's the door. All right? Whether those types of conversations took place or not, it's very clear that he had a very, very serious conversation with Ezekiel Elliott. If he's going to come out early in the week and say there's going to be no punishment for this, to me, that really surprises me.
Did you struggle a little bit with the fact that after that loss, there seemed to be this sky is falling mentality, when in reality, if Michigan State loses next week to Penn State and Ohio State takes care of business against Michigan and then beats Iowa in the Big Ten championship, the Buckeyes are still going to be a part of that playoff conversation. The season is not over.
The season's not over, and you're right in what you're saying in theory. The problem is, and this is what we would compare to a year ago. A year ago, they had their loss early in the year, brand new quarterback, an abysmal offensive line, and they showed tremendous improvement and became dominant throughout the course of the season. And the committee placed a lot of stock in that. Why the sky is falling mentality is taking place right now in Columbus is because this happened so late in the season, and up to this point, they were not playing great football. It was almost as if people were waiting for it. So is it a loss coming at the absolute wrong time as we look here at the Big Ten East scenarios?
And neither was Michigan State in terms of playing good football. They had some close calls as well. Here's how it works. If Michigan State beats beats Penn, the Spartans will play Iowa in the Big Ten championship. If the Spartans lose to Penn State, the winner of Ohio State-Michigan will take on Iowa for the Big Ten title.